without further ado and without me talking too much, let's bring out Tinker Hatfield.
Tinker, you're the man!
Wow, it's quite a crowd.
It's crazy out here, right?
You're on here to see Tristan, right? Come on. No. TV stuff.
So, first question for everybody. What is your relationship with Soul Collector?
Well, I've known Steve and Nick, the two. Well, Steve in particular, probably the longest. I've known those guys for a while, and they've been such passionate promoters of sneakerology, not just sneaker collecting, but the whole, I guess, art and science of understanding about design and shoes and personalities and athletes, and so it's been a nice relationship, and it's grown over the years, and they've done such a great job. I don't know if you all read the magazine, but I think it's just the best one out there. It's beautiful. Every issue is just made with care. So we've got a great relationship with those guys. Thank you. Give them a hand. Give Soul Collector. They put a lot of work. I don't think these guys actually sleep at all. I don't think they do.
They didn't look like they slept.
Look at them
driving from Portland.
Look at them. They don't look like they slept.
Okay, so how did you get your start with Nike, and what has it been like designing at the brand for 3 decades?
Oh, yeah, I was afraid you were going to bring that up. Well, luckily for me, I grew up in a sports world, a sports background, and I was an athlete, and I went to the University of Oregon and ran track, and that's where Nike started, actually, up in Oregon. And it wasn't just about running or just about track, it was about athletes and sports and good design. And I went to architecture school along with running track, and it was really an interesting and fortunate combination of backgrounds for me. So I could design, I could draw, and I was an athlete, and I could sit down and talk to other athletes and kind of understand what they were going through, what their needs were. And I guess, unfortunately, I picked up a little bit of style sense along the way. I don't know how, I don't know why, but anyhow, that's really my background. And so when I came to Nike, it was just a perfect match for me, and I've had a great time for a long time.
Wow. Okay. So the Air Max 1 and the 11s are two very, very iconic sneakers that you've made, and they're the inspiration for tonight's shoe. Can you talk about designing the Air Max 1? You know, it was the first Nike shoe with visible air.
Yeah, Tristan, thanks for asking that question, because this is the first time I've ever actually talked about kind of 2 shoes at once. But let's start with the Air Max 1. Like you said, it was unique in its day because of the visible air window. But more than that, it actually was what I thought a nice step forward for the sneaker business in general, trying to sort of step out of just being normal and being utilitarian and actually bringing something else to the party. So, so the Air Max, I was working on that, and at the same time I was working on the Air Max and trying to develop the Air Max window, which I don't know if any of you have heard about the inspiration from the Georges Pompidou Center in Paris. It's a building that was built basically in the 1970s that basically turned itself inside out, and you saw it was the first big building that was all glass, but all the air conditioning and the elevators and the escalators and everything were all on the outside, and it was sort of like just flip-flopping the way you design a building. And I guess I was inspired by that and thought, well, you should actually show the technology in a shoe, and so that's how the window got developed. So that's the first part of your question, right?
And yes, and of course, you know, the 11s, perhaps arguably the most famous Jordan out there of them all. So what inspired you to introduce both patent leather and carbon fiber?
Well, first I was going to mention that the guy who was supposed to design the very first, or the very early part, very early Air Jordans, I should say, left Nike, and I ended up getting to design Air Jordans from the 3 up until pretty much today, although there have been a few I haven't done. But the 11, actually, of all those shoes, is my favorite one. And the reason I like it the most is partly because it has patent leather, and made out of nylon and has a carbon fiber shank and some of those things that had never happened before. But it was also designed, believe it or not, when Michael Jordan was retired, and he kept telling everybody he wasn't going to come back to basketball, and Nike wanted to stop the Jordan line. And they didn't want to do any more Jordans because their thinking was if he wasn't going to play basketball anymore, we wouldn't even be able to sell Jordans. And I disagreed with that, and even though the people higher up than me tried to stop me, I didn't stop. I kept doing it, and I kept working on it. And thank you. And that's why I like this shoe so much. It was not only innovative because of the carbon fiber, which kind of came from football cleats, you know, both soccer and American football, and then the patent leather was actually an idea of Michael's. He didn't really know about patent leather so much, but he wanted a shoe that was shiny.
Formal shoes.
He actually wanted a shoe that was shiny for about 3 years before that, and I could not really figure out the right kind of material and how to use it, because really every time we do something with one of these shoes, we want them to be performance-oriented first. And that's what helps drive the style. If it works better, it also just tends to look more purposeful and look better. So anyway, that's how the shoe got designed. MJ was all excited when I brought in a sample and it had this patent leather on it. And he said, the first thing he said was that he couldn't get a word out. And he was like, he was searching for these words. And he goes, the real first sentence he said, people are going to be wearing these with tuxedos. And I'm going, I didn't believe him. I said, no. And then about 3 months later, Boyz II Men showed up on the American Music Awards, all wearing Air Jordan 11s with tuxedos. And Michael called me up that night and said, "See, I told you so." And I said, "You probably paid those guys." He said, "No way. No, they did on their own." And so it kind of developed a life of its own, this shoe, because it sort of transcended basketball a little bit and into sort of modern culture in the music industry, and so that's the story of the shoe. It's pretty fun. It's my favorite because of all of those things.
So now, because we've talked about both of those shoes, how did those two shoes smash together to make the Comfort 11s?
I have no idea. Ask Steve. I think it was his. You know, I can't take any credit for the design, the sort of the smashing together of these two shoes to create this design, which is actually an accepted way to come up with new ideas, right? Bring two things that are unlikely and put them together in an artful way, and you come up with a new design. I didn't do this work. So I'm just here to take credit. That's all I got. But anyway, there's some talented people at Nike and with the Soul Collector guys. I think it was a good idea. Sort of mix it up a little bit. Take two things that are not, again, normally associated with one another and put them together. I should, point out that they were both designed at roughly the same time back in the day. So they do have a connection time-wise, actually, as well.
So, because you worked with Soul Collector and, of course, Nike, but can you tell us a little bit more about the collaboration process between you guys and, some of the inspirations for this particular shoe?
Well, the Soul Collector guys have been great because they're such passionate, again, advocates of good design, sneaker heads to the max, perfectionists, and all of that stuff. And it's been actually sometimes when you sit down and they know more than I do about a shoe that I designed, and it shows that they study they understand the medium that they work in, which is the magazine industry and all of the great photography and the writing, but also they just have this really deep understanding of the actual product itself. And that makes it really fun for me because actually sometimes they'll tell me things about the shoes that I either forgot or whatever, and so it's been super fun to work with them over the time. And I'm always energized when I'm usually finished talking to especially Nick and Steve. I'm always energized by their passion. Just like here tonight, I still struggle with the fact that people are so interested in the work that I've done over the years. And you know what? Thank you for coming. It really gives me a lot of energy. So, yeah, very cool.